It's good to see everybody here and on TikTok. Hi, TikTok. Everybody say hi, TikTok. All right. It's amazing the world that we live in today, isn't it? Somebody can be in Australia and watching us right now, although it's in the middle of the night, so they probably aren't. But at some point, they might watch us on TikTok, so that's pretty cool. It's great to see everybody here today. It's great to see those of you who are here in person. We know, like I say, every time I'm up here, I would much rather be sleeping, but I chose to be here just like all of you, and we're so glad that you're here with us. With all the kiddos and all the different backgrounds represented here, we bring together such a beautiful community. We do have a digital Connect card. I think it's up here. There we go. If you want to scan the QR code, there's a bunch of different things on there. You can see the events that we have coming up. We actually have on the 26th, I believe it is, on Saturday, we're going to support the Pride Center. Some of you guys know they were vandalized, and there's a lot of stuff going on with their community. So across the road in the dialysis area, we're going to go and just support them. It's from 4 to 7 p.m. on the 26th. So just make sure you're there. If you want to hear more about it, then you can definitely jump on that QR code and find out more. We do not have church on Labor Day Sunday. We're going to have another, we call it the Sabbath Sunday. How many of you guys like the idea of the Sabbath Sunday, just being able to rest, relax? I know our staff likes it more than anybody, being able to take a break and just go out and enjoy a Sunday with your family, with your community. Maybe some of you like to connect. We always love to connect with different people in the church during the time that we don't have to be at church, right? Or don't choose to be at church, I should probably say that way. We do have house church starting after Labor Day. So if you, and by the way, I guess I skipped this part. You kids don't have to listen to me anymore. All the kids can go with Miss Kylan. All the children, get out of here. Unless you want to stay, which you do, but not really. All right, so we have house church starting. If you want to host a house church, or if you're interested in finding out about the house churches, sign up with the QR code. If you want to lead one, talk to some of the pastors. I know we kind of got singled out. They're like, do you want to lead the queer house church? I'm like, yeah, I guess that'll be us. So Tyler and I will be hosting a house church, and I know a bunch of you will be as well. So we'd love to get them scattered all over Gainesville so we can invite people to them. I don't know about you guys, but it's a lot easier to invite people to my house than it is to church, just because of the preconceived notions that people have, right? So to be able to get them into our community that way and show them what love really is, and I just love the ability to do that. We do have a little bit of a different thing starting. You guys saw the last couple weeks, we don't pass a tithing plate anymore. We think that sometimes, especially with today's age, we have like online giving, so it's a little awkward when you're like, yeah, I already gave online, you don't have to pass the plate to me or anything like that. But also, I just want to share with you guys, I was trying to think of what I could compare a pastor's job to, and I'm like, okay, they spend a lot of time thinking about what to say, they have to entertain. Comedian, right? Same idea. But if you think about it, there's so much more that goes into our staff's jobs, our pastor's jobs, all the people, Miss Kylan that takes on the kids, and all the prep work that goes into that, the building that we're in, the utilities, all the different things. And so because we get to connect with some of these guys outside of church, we see how much they put into it. And I just really, I'm encouraged by the fact that we're not a church trying to just give all our staff a huge salary, but we're also giving a percentage away to compassion, different initiatives that we have going on in our community, and also that we're able to go out and provide a space for there's a lot of groups that use our space, and being able to support that and be that in our community is really cool. Today, Pastor Kevin is going to continue our series called Cord. And I don't know about you guys, but I heard last week was super awesome and super controversial. How many of you guys know the negative comments online give us more traffic for the positive people? So I'm really excited to hear what Pastor Kevin has to say. So.
No way. good morning. How you doing? I'm feeling really like there's pressure. Like I got to be a comedian. I got to do all these. I got to tell jokes now. It's like a thing. Anyways, thanks for being here. My name's Kevin. I'm the lead pastor here at Meizon Church, and I am so glad that you've chosen to be here today. We are continuing a series today. If you haven't heard last week's message, I want to encourage all of you to go online, check out last week's message. Drake shared about belonging. And it was super powerful. I mean, I can't even express to you how powerful of a message that was, even for me to hear. We want to be a place where people feel like they can belong. And I actually had a conversation with Drake after that message. We were kind of like bouncing back some ideas because we're like collaborating here. You know, it's like it's not just like three individual people who have individual ideas or agendas. It's like we're like bouncing ideas off each other, and we're talking to each other all the time. And we were just talking this week, and I don't know if any of you follow like Brene Brown. You guys, yeah. So she's like a researcher, and she does a lot of stuff on shame and empathy. But she was talking recently about belonging, and that there is in her research, she basically found that fitting in and belonging are like opposites. They're opposed to each other. And a lot of people think that fitting in is belonging. And that has been just so heavy on me all week because I've been thinking about how, yeah, that is so true, isn't it? Like all these times that I've just been trying to find belonging, I've really just been working really hard to change myself so that I can fit into whatever the social norm is of that group or this group. And it happens a lot in church. You know, in churches, I know for me growing up, I was looking back at my past and I'm like, man, how many times have I gone to a church and I've just sort of felt like I wasn't really being my true self because I was trying to fit in. And in that, I was finding some kind of belonging or a sense of belonging for myself. When in actuality, what we really want, and what Brene Brown says in that research is, belonging is when we can be truly ourselves. When we can be completely honest and completely open with who we are. And we present that before everybody and we say, hey, this is who I am. And then you are accepted. And then you are loved. And that you are just fully seen for who you are. And that is what we're trying to do here. There's a difference. So many churches say that you belong, and they want to use this phrase all the time. But it's not, like, at least in my experiences, I found that it's like kind of like almost like a false advertisement. And when we say belong here, I just want you guys to know we really, really, truly mean it. And we're striving to do that. It doesn't mean we're going to always get it right. It doesn't mean that we're perfect. But we're trying, and I hope that you can see that here. I hope that you sense that in these talks. Like I said last week, Drake just kicked it out of the park. It was so good. And so go back, check that out. I want to start this morning by looking at a story in the Gospel of Mark. I was reading this week. It was really interesting. I'm going to read the story, and we'll take it apart as we go. But just to set the scene, as with many of these stories in the Gospel about Jesus, Jesus had just had a run-in with our favorite gang of Pharisees and religious leaders. Seems like this is a recurring theme for him. And they were criticizing his followers for not following certain rules when eating food. And this is what's happening in Mark chapter 7. And so washing hands ceremoniously before eating food, the religious leaders are getting all bent out of shape about it. They're coming at Jesus pretty hard. But then the next part of the story starts at verse 24. I'm going to read it here. It says, Jesus left that place and he went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it. He's trying to find some peace, right? Yet he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as this woman heard about him, this woman whose little daughter was possessed by an impure spirit came and fell at his feet. Okay, so Jesus is at this point in his ministry where the word is out. People know what Jesus is about, and people want a piece of his time everywhere he goes. Can you imagine this? I can't imagine what celebrities go through, right? Like we were talking about this recently. Like I'm a big Taylor Swift fan, right? And so I just think about her doing this tour, and everybody wants a piece of her time all day long, right? What must that be like? I think about that. And so Jesus, the word's out on Jesus. Everybody wants a piece of Jesus' time. And the guy just wants to find some peace. He's just trying to find a room in a house where he can just sit and be for 5 minutes. My wife and I, we have 3 kids. And there was our daughters are 18 months apart. And so there was this moment when I think they were probably 2 and 3, and my wife would call me and she'd be like, I'm in the bathroom. They won't leave me alone. Or I'm in the laundry room. I can't do this anymore. Because our kids want us, right? They want a piece of our time all the time. They're like, can you help me with this? Can you do this? Drop my whatever, or my binky. Is that what it was, a binky? It's been so long now, right? Anyways, so everybody wants a piece of Jesus' time. The other thing that I find really interesting about this is that Jesus is really disruptive. This is a side note that I kind of put in after the fact, but the religious leaders and the Pharisees, they want people to fit in. They don't want people to belong, right? And so, Jesus is actually creating spaces where people belong. And it's funny how the system doesn't want that. Just a side note, right? And so the woman comes to Jesus, and then it picks up on verse 26. The woman was a Greek. She was born in Syrian Phoenicia. She begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. Now, I think it's always interesting that they add these details in the scripture, and this one's really important because it says that she was Greek. In the Gospel of Matthew, this story appears, and it says that she was a Canaanite. But in either case, she's a Gentile. And Gentiles were outside of the Jewish system, or at least seen as being outside the Jewish system. She was seen as a stranger, a foreigner, a Greek speaker, and a woman. So she's got a lot of things against her here. Her religion, her language, her nationality, and her gender all put her at a disadvantage. And I'd imagine that the disciples are even on the scene. They're following Jesus around, and they're seeing this exchange. They see this woman who's approaching Jesus while he's trying to get a break. And they're probably like, hey, this is... a lot of people's girlfriends are in there, right, they're like the bouncers trying to protect Jesus, right? I think that's just really interesting, But Jesus, he waves them away, and he resists them from turning the woman away, and instead he replies in verse 27, "First, let the children eat all they want," he told her, "for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." Now, this part of the story turned me all kinds of sideways, because I'm like, what the heck does that mean? It's like some secret code, right? He's throwing around these metaphors about dogs and children. There's a lot of theologians that actually interpret this, and they think that Jesus is expressing his frustration to the woman. Like, hey, I'm just trying to find some peace and quiet. You're a Gentile. And so he's using this analogy that, hey, you're not good enough to come and talk to me right now because I'm busy. But I don't think that's what's happening. And here's why, right? I think Jesus is being sarcastic. And I think that he's saying that the rules would say that she has no right to ask Jesus for a miracle because she's not clean enough, Jewish enough, or the right gender. But she's got this determination, right? She's got this determination. And so here, as the story continues, you see why I think this. In verse 28, "Lord," she replied, "even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." And then he told her, "For such a reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter." She went home and found her child lying on the bed, and the demon was gone. The woman was bold. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't afraid to ask Jesus, and she wasn't afraid to even push back at the things that Jesus was saying. And I think it was a test. I think that Jesus was putting a test out there in kind of a funny, joking way, saying, hey, are you kidding? Like right now we're going to do this? Okay, well, what you got? And then she comes right back and says, hey, you promised this, and I want to just take you up on the promise that you made. Even the dogs get to eat the crumbs. Come on, I have a need. Will you just listen to me? Will you hear my heart? She's pushing through all odds. There's so much against this woman. And what I want to tell you today is that there's so much against those who are in the margins, so much against the people who have been cast out, or the people who don't feel like they fit in, the people who are falling through the cracks. We do this thing all the time here at Meizon, and we're trying to make this space for the people who don't have a space, right? This woman didn't have a space. But she heard about Jesus, and she heard the promises, and she heard the things that he was saying and he was doing, and she was like, I want that. I want that for me. I want that for my family. I want things to change. I want my daughter to be healed. And so she was bold, and she moved towards Jesus. She moved in his direction, and she didn't let go. I know that some of us don't know what we believe about God or about the Bible. We don't know what we believe, even about church or coming into this space. I know it's hard. Sometimes we go through things, we get hurt in church, and we come back to these spaces, and it's triggering, and it's uncomfortable, and it's hard. And I feel that, too. I've shared some of my story. I won't share all of it today, but I get that. This week, I want to explore that second core value, believe. Maybe you didn't grow up with all these struggles. Maybe you're here today and everything's great with you in Jesus, and you're just happy to be here. And I just want you to know I am so happy to hear that. You know, there's people here who didn't grow up in church, and they don't have all that extra baggage. And I know that you guys are here too, and I just want to honor you, like, wow, like, you hopped on the train. Like, that's awesome. And so I just want to acknowledge that. But all of us are in different places with our faith journey with God. Some of those experiences are great, some of them are awful, and some of them we're still going through right now. But I think it's important for us to know what we believe about God. The reason why is because I believe that what we believe about God, ourselves, and others directly affects how we act. It directly affects the choices we make. It directly affects the way that we love each other, the way that we see each other, the way that we work for justice in our world. All of those things are affected by what we believe about ourselves, about each other, and about God. In this story, the woman goes to Jesus for the healing of her daughter. She believed something about Jesus that affected her behavior. It affected her decisions. She was bold. She was not going to let Jesus go until he healed her daughter. She believed that Jesus could change the direction, the path, the story of her and her daughter's life. It would all change because of Jesus. So I want to ask a couple questions at this point in this talk. I want to ask, what kinds of decisions are you making when it comes to the people around you? How are we treating those in need around us? How are we treating the people who we see when we drive through the city that need us most, that need help, that need support? Sometimes they just need food and water. Sometimes they need more than that. But what are we doing? How are we actively participating in that? Are we suspicious? That's one that I wrestle with. I'm from New Jersey. And so, I'm suspicious of everybody, but that just comes from, when you're born in New Jersey, it's like, yeah, right. Do we trust each other? What we believe about others. Do we trust others? Are we willing to take a chance with those people around us? What kinds of decisions are we making when it comes to ourselves? Are we taking care of ourselves? Are we doing things that are helping improve our health, our wholeness? Are we believing in ourselves? I'm not good at that. You can ask my wife. I beat myself up a lot. Are we beating ourselves up? Are we spending a lot of time looking at all the things we did wrong instead of the things that we're doing that are good and right? Am I lovable? Am I enough? Do I like who I am? Do I feel lovable? These are some of the questions that I come to when I ask these questions. I've told this story before to the Meizon mission crowd, but I don't think I've told it here since we've been doing the morning thing. And so if you've heard this one before, you're along for the ride. It's going to be good. About 13 years ago, me and my family, we were in a situation where we moved. We actually moved from Virginia to Nashville, Tennessee, and I was doing some music stuff. And I was at a point in my life where I didn't really know what I believed about God. I didn't know what I believed about church. I didn't know what I believed about even my need for church. I thought maybe me and Jesus were good on our own, and I didn't really need to do the thing. But I had a friend who encouraged me, and it was mostly because of music. He was like, hey, man, you should come and be part of our church. You can play on the worship team. It'd be really great to have you. I'm like, yeah, maybe. I mean, that'd be fun. I could probably do that. That's low commitment. Like, I can do that. I can play music, and I can kind of like ignore how I'm feeling about the rest. But part of their process at that church was I had to take one of those spiritual gifts tests to be part of the thing. I don't know. They're kind of, it's like a personality test. It's like Myers-Briggs or whatever. But basically, you take this test, and at the end of the test, it's supposed to tell you all the things that you're like gifted in, your spiritual gifts are. And then through that, they're supposed to help you find your place in the church or whatever. I took the test. Now, mind you, I'm in a place where I don't know what I believe. I don't even know if I believe anymore. And I take this test, and my number one gift is faith. And so I'm like kind of laughing, and I stop, and I go up to the lady who's like administering the test, and I'm like, excuse me, I think your test is broken. And she smiled and laughed, and she's like, well, why do you say that? And I said, well, this thing says that my number one gift is faith. And if you knew where I was at and you knew what I was thinking, I don't think you would think that I would be a person who has a lot of faith. Every time I tell this story, because it was like Jesus in that moment. It was like Jesus himself looked up at me, and she just smiled. And she said, but you're here. But you're here. You wouldn't be here if you didn't believe this. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have faith. And in that moment, everything I believed about faith changed. And this is why I'm so passionate about faith. You hear me talk about faith a lot in this church because I think that we've got it wrong about what faith is. Faith isn't about amassing a bunch of feelings or a bunch of, clicking our ruby slippers together and squinting our eyes real tight. Like, that's not faith. Jesus says that it takes the faith of a mustard seed to move a mountain. And I've said this before. It's a joke. He's telling a joke. That's a funny, sarcastic statement that Jesus is making. He's saying, look, it doesn't matter how much faith you have. If you are moving in my direction, it's enough to move a mountain. Amen. Isn't that good? Like, that's why that's so important. That's why my heart burns for faith so much. Because I want to empower and encourage every single one of you to realize that it doesn't matter what you believe about God. It doesn't matter how we feel about this journey that we're on, no matter where we are. If you woke up this morning and you came to church this morning, that's mountain moving faith. Like, that's good stuff. We need to understand that faith isn't about getting something. It's about moving somewhere. Amen? And I believe that our church is moving somewhere. I want to honor your faith today. I want to honor your faith today. The reason why is because you're here, because you're moving in a direction towards God. A lot of people, I think they feel like when they're in these places where they're like, oh, I don't really know what I believe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this means to me. I'm not sure what church means to me. I don't know how to value these things in my life or for my family. What happens is we've been told over and over again, oh, you just need to have more faith, right? And I just hope that this word just burns into your mind and into your heart today. That's not it. It's not that you're not enough. It's not that you're not doing enough. It's not that you're not being enough. You're on the journey. We're all on this journey together. Meizon wants to honor people's faith, not diminish it. So many churches lay out these heavy guilt trips about faith, and you just need more faith, and you got to do this, yada, yada. But the truth is, it only takes this mustard seed faith. I love that our core values are at the forefront of everything that we do, Like, look at the mural in the hallway. Have you guys checked out the mural, right? We've got the belong, but eventually we're going to have believe and become, and it's just huge, big. It was funny, Drake messaged me, or it might have been Miranda. One of you all messaged me, and you're like, how big should this mural be on the wall? I'm like, as big as you can make it. As big as you can make it. I don't want anybody to walk in this building and not know what those 3 core values are. As big as you can make it. It's interesting, in leadership development and crafting mission, vision, and value statements, I don't know if any of you do like business stuff or structure, business structure stuff. But a lot of businesses and churches, they do this stuff because they need to, they need some vision, they need some focus, but then they forget about it, right? They go through they get these consultants to come in and they do all this workshopping and they do all these things to try to figure out what their values and their mission statement are. And then they spend all this money and they do all this stuff and then they forget about it because it's just get back to the grind, the week to week, right? But I hope you guys know that we wrestle with these core values every week. Like every week we're talking about them. Every week we're trying to incorporate them into every bit of what we do here at Meizon because I think that they matter. These core values matter so much. Because if we're not really a place of belonging for people, that's a problem. If we're not really encouraging people to move towards Jesus, which is our believe value, like what I'm talking about today, that's a problem. Next week, Miranda's going to come. She's going to talk about becoming more like Jesus. Like, that's the encouragement that we have, is that we can move in a direction towards something that actually brings value to this world. It actually helps people become not just better people, but it helps the world to become a better place, right? And so those are things that we really value. And I want to share with you, I'm going to put it on the screen, but this is on our website. It says this about our believe value. It says that our hope is that through belonging, all people might consider believing in the way of Jesus. We've learned that our faith is more than a journey, not really a destination. Belief is a moving towards, not necessarily an arriving at. Wherever you're at, whether you feel close or far from Jesus, we want to encourage you to move towards him. So I want to invite the band up, and I want to just spend some time just inviting us into a place of moving towards. So I come from a kind of a charismatic background. I always feel like I have to say this because it's like a disclaimer. Like it's because I don't want to freak people out. And charismatic churches are really good at freaking people out. Because freaky stuff happens sometimes. And I don't want to trigger anybody. I don't want anybody who's been in that kind of a past or has had that kind of experience to come into the space and to feel like, oh, wow, that was really heavy-handed, or that was really weird, or I don't know what was going on there. I want to be really upfront with you and honest about this. But I do believe that in these moments, when we come to these places and we're like, all right, God, how do I move towards you? What does that look like? I think it's okay for us to pray. I think it's okay for us to receive prayer. It's okay for us to receive encouragement. And I still believe that God speaks in these moments when we open our ears and listen. See, I think what happens, and this is something I've talked about before, but I think what happens in church environments is that we invite God into our thing. So it's like you've been to the charismatic churches or the spirit-filled churches, I guess is the thing, and you hear them and they're like, oh, well, God, we invite you to come. We need you to come. Be with us now, right? And that's like the start of the thing. What I've learned is that God's actually already here. He's already moving. He's already speaking. He's already doing things. The problem is that we need to open our eyes and open our ears to spiritually see and hear the things that God is saying and that God is doing. Because the thing is, he's been doing something for thousands of years. And he invites us into the thing that he's doing right here, right now. The thing that he's been planning for thousands of years. We didn't just think this up. We didn't just show up and say, all right, God, we're doing a thing. Turn on the God switch. Get that Holy Spirit pad going. Right? You're laughing because it's right. It's true. We've all done that thing, right? But the thing is when we stop for a minute and we say, you know what, God? I don't get it. That's the journey. The journey is humility. The journey is to the place where it's like, you know what? I don't know. The more I do this church thing, the more I don't know. I don't know how this thing works. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're saying. But you know what? I believe that you want to speak. I believe that you want to tell me. And maybe I just need to see this much of the thing. And that's okay. But for me, that's where I'm at. Like, and I'm not trying to say that because I'm trying to make you, like, I'm not trying to impress my journey onto you. I'm just saying, look, no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, what you're feeling, what you're thinking about God, Jesus, the Bible, whatever it is, God is here. And he wants to speak to you today. So if you feel comfortable, I just want to invite you to stand. And we're going to close our eyes and we're going to pray. So if you just stand up. And if you feel comfortable, just put your hands out in front of yourself and you're going to close your eyes. And the reason that we do this is because we're taking a posture. We're assuming a posture of receiving something from God. God wants to say something. He wants to give us something. He wants to do something. Right? So we're going to close our eyes and we're just going to ask God to move. We're just going to spend a couple seconds in this posture. Holy Spirit, speak. Holy Spirit, move. God, we ask for you to open our ears to hear the words that you have to say. God, there's people here who want to hear you say, I love you. You're enough. I'm so proud of you. There are those of us here who need to hear you say, I see you. You're not alone. I'm with you. Spirit, speak words of encouragement over your people today. There are some of us here who want to see a picture of what it means to follow you and to know you. Maybe it's different for every single person in this room. This isn't a one-size-fits-all proposition. What does it mean for me to see you? Some people are asking that question today. God, I pray that in this moment you would open their eyes, their spiritual eyes, to see that you are with them on the journey. There's a scripture that says whether you go to the right or to the left, you will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, move in it. God, I pray that we would know that you are the voice. You are the voice behind us saying, go. Keep going. Don't give up. Just like the woman in the story, don't let go. Keep going. I'm right behind you. God, there's even still some of us who we don't feel any feelings. We're not emotive in these moments. We don't hear a spiritual voice. We don't see spiritual visions. We're just kind of sitting here going, oh, okay, this is cool, but maybe nothing's happening here. I want to encourage you today and honor your faith. You are here and God is with you. God sees you and he knows you. The last thing I want to do, and you can open your eyes, but the last thing I want to do here today is I just want to encourage you with this last word. And this one's really hard. And it's hard I don't want to say it's hard for me. I feel like I say this thing all the time. This is like the story of my life word. But I want to share it with you because I think it's so important for our spiritual health and our spiritual well-being. God is faithful and he's good. When I've hit the wall, every time I've hit the wall in my life, in my journey, and I come to this place, actually, I have extra time. I'm looking at the clock. I got extra time. I'm going to tell this story. So, I hit the wall a few years ago, and I had a pastor friend talk to me, and I was really frustrated. Things were just not working out in my life. There was I owed a lot of money to this guy, and there was there was so much it was like, you ever get in those places where it's overwhelming, all the things are going wrong at the same time, and they have nothing to do with each other, and so you're just it's all falling apart. And I was so angry because I believed that God had led me to the place that I was at. And so I was talking to this pastor friend of mine, and I said, I'm just so angry. I don't know if God even hears me. I don't know if God even knows what I'm going through right now. I'm just feeling so under it. And this guy said to me, he's like, do you believe that God is faithful? And I sat there and I was like, oh, I don't know if I do. I don't know if I do. And he says, well, I think you need to go home and you need to figure that out. Like, is God really good? Is he really faithful? Do you really believe that God is who he says he is, that he's going to be good to you? Because if you don't believe that God's good to you, then why do you even do this thing? And I went home and I prayed and I just like, all right, I'll pray. And I remember going home and I'm just like, I felt so defeated and I just didn't feel like anything was going to happen. And I'm not even kidding. And this is not, I'm not one of these like pray it into being people. So don't hear that. But like within a week, all of the things that I was under worked out. Like all of them. Like through weird things, like stuff that like some dude that owed me money from like however long ago like showed up. Like it was crazy stuff. Anyways, I got through it, and my friend came back to me afterwards, and he says, how are you doing? And I said, man, you're not going to believe it. All the things worked out. And he goes, well, that's great, but do you believe that God is faithful? And he said, in the story of, when I guess it's in is it Joshua? It's Joshua 4. It's when they cross into the promised land, and they build the monuments to remind themselves of God's goodness. And he said, you need to build a monument right here, right now, to remind yourself the next time you're feeling under it, the next time you feel like the world is caving in around you, you go back and you look at that monument and you say, you know what, God's faithful. God is good. He's good to me. And I'm going to keep believing that. I apologize for this. Like, I'm super emo right now because but like, this is so important to our faith. It's so important because it's like, we don't control the outcome. We don't control, it's not like this, like I said, it's not the ruby slipper stuff. It's life. It's real stuff. We're all going through real stuff. Like, the front of my wife's van fell off of it this morning on the way to church. Like, literally, like, the whole, like, front bumper came off on the way to church. And I'm just like, cool, one more thing, great. Like, we're all going through stuff. No matter where we're at, I just want you to know that God is good and that he's faithful. Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm going to say. So be encouraged, and I'm going to do the same benediction that I do every time over you guys, and I'm going to pray it just now, okay? I'm going to say it 3 times because I want this to bury itself into your hearts. I pray that God's grace... Don't look at me. My wife is looking at me. I pray that God's grace would empower you to do the things that you could never do in your own strength. I pray that God's grace would empower us all to do the things that God calls us to, that we could never do in our own strength. And God, I pray that your grace would empower us to do the things that we could never do in our own strength. That is a good word. Whew. Thanks for listening. The band's going to sing, and I just want to encourage you over the next couple minutes as he sings this song that you would press in, that you would ask God to speak to you, encourage you, and to move you towards him.
Wow. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that. Faith is not about getting something. It's about going somewhere. That was powerful. Thank you, Pastor Kevin. I'm so thankful to belong somewhere. Oof, now I'm getting emotional. To belong somewhere where we can really dig into what really matters. And I'm just up here to say there's a couple reminders. Make sure you sign up for a house church if you can lead one. Talk to the pastors about getting one set up at your home. We do want to thank Miranda and Stephanie. How many of you guys saw the big mural out there on the wall? That was a big feat. I guess design Drake. Thank you, Drake, for designing. But Miranda and Stephanie did the hard work. So, but also each week that we go through this series, we're going to color in or paint in the next word. So if you want to help us with that, if you have some artistic skills, please let us know. And also, or not traced, painted. Oh, yeah. I already said that. Anyway. No, we have a potluck after today. We'd love to invite you to stay and join us, and wish all you TikTok people could join us too. But if you didn't bring anything, don't worry about it. There's always a lot of food. So stay after over in the fellowship hall. We're going to get together and have some communion together. But thank you all for coming, and we'll see you.